Well, it's always beautiful seeing the moon rise in the evening twilight and wondering so many things about that celestial neighbor of ours. Like I know you are here to stay curious about our moon, and I'm Mark Marquette, and happy that you're all here today to stay curious. And Marty's telling me the microphone needs to be a little closer.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. There you go, Marty. And well, thank you everybody for watching Stay Curious today. As I'm looking around the fruited plain and I see Dave Stange up there in Michigan, and over there's Tom Usiak, and well, they're freezing to death up there. There's a big wallop of snow across the fruited plain, and so we've got this beautiful summertime picture to warm your hearts up there. And also we'll use it for an illustration of an optical illusion, as we're going to feature today as part of our STEAM Outreach Educational Series at the American Space Museum, a program about the moon illusion. And there's our STEAM education poster from January, and we had a great program in February on animals in space, and we're going to talk about women behind the scenes and in space on our March 1st Bilingual STEAM Saturday with Natalia Sepulveda, who's been a great volunteer educator here for us. So, Marty, if I said the moon is 14 days old, talking like an amateur astronomer, I think you get it now. What would the moon look like in the sky?
It would look like a full moon, like the one I saw this morning.
That's right. Or if you were Dean Martin, it'd look like a big piece of pie in the sky. And that's amore. And Dean Martin, if you're under 50, look him up, a singer. So yeah, 14 days old. The moon is going to rise about when the sun sets. It's going to be visible all evening long. And then each evening it rises about 50 minutes later than the previous night. Now this goes from about an hour to sometimes as low as 40 minutes, depending on the season of the year. And that has a lot to do with the inclination of the Earth's 24.5-degree axial tilt and the moon going around it. But we're going to talk today about something that I love talking about, the moon. And it's hard to always talk about something different about the moon, because I'd like to talk about the moon at least 4 or 5 times a year around the full moon phase and other phases, of course, because the moon is so influential in our lives. In animal life is not as influential in human life as it used to be because of modern technology. After all, we don't need the full moon to harvest our crops by and get an extra hour or two, or to plant crops, or to hunt. The moon was a bright beacon in the sky to do things. But something interesting that I try to get people to embrace, and have tried to get them to embrace for over 50 years of my astronomy outreach, is the moon is owned by no one. You can do with the moon what you want to do. It's yours to write a song about, uh, a poem, draw, photograph, whatever you feel like doing. And I'm trying to beam up here everybody on here. Let me see here, Marty. I'm getting our minions up here that are watching. See if Carlton Bailey's watching today. There, I don't see it. Give me a second here so I can answer any of your questions on my phone here. The moon is so well thought of in civilization that cavemen drew pictures of it on cavemen walls. All right, let's see here. There we go. Now we're live. Just had to recycle it a couple times and put down who's watching. There we go. And get my name off there. Sorry for the delay, folks, but I like talking to y'all. Cliff Watson's up early. Good morning to you, Cliffy, from the Australian coast, East Coast. He actually sees the moon upside down than we see it today. Okay. Dave Stange says he remembers when he took his first picture of the full moon and it looked so small. In his viewfinder, it looked big. And then when he got the print back, it wasn't as big. And Robert Law is up under the moonlight right now in the observatory up in Dundee, Scotland. Oh, you said it's cloudy in Dundee. Okay. Well, you'll probably see the full moon through the breaks in the clouds. And Mitch Rothman says, hi, Mark and Marty and everybody at ASM. We certainly say hi to you. And John Borelli's up there in Limestone, New York, probably buried in some snow. A lot of snow everywhere, Marty, and we're having almost 90-degree temperatures. Sorry to rub that in, but it is rather warm around here. So now I got everybody on board. Let me get into my wheelhouse to talk about the moon. No one owns the moon, like I said. You can do anything you want with it. And particularly when it's close to the horizon, it looks so huge. It looks like a basketball held outright, couldn't cover it up. But you can always cover the moon up with your little finger outstretched. It's only a half a degree of the sky. Now, the moon illusion is an optical illusion where it appears larger on the horizon than it does it does anywhere else, than it does directly overhead. Okay, Marty's adjusting my volume here. Marty, we got everything okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not trying to talk real loud, but pump up the volume there. Or if you hold a pebble, pick up a pebble on the ground as you're watching the moon rise and hold it up, and then 3 hours later when it's higher up in the sky, that same pebble will cover up the moon all the time. A half a degree across in the sky. And when we look at it on the ocean, it looks so magnificent over mountains, oceans, buildings. It looks so much bigger than when it gets up higher in the sky. And this is an illusion that has puzzled all thinkers, from Aristotle to Ptolemy, one of the great influencers on astronomy, the Greek astronomer Ptolemy, 2,200 years ago. Leonardo da Vinci, Rene Descartes, all pondered about the moon. Immanuel Kant, okay, has a comment from 1781. Immanuel Kant was a famous philosopher with a critique of pure reason was his book. And he said, quote, the astronomer cannot prevent himself from seeing the moon larger at its rising than sometime afterward, although he is not deceived by this illusion. All right. And that refers to we're not deceived by it because we know the moon is a rocky orb orbiting the Earth 250,000 miles away, approximately, and it's about 2,000 miles across. All right. But that only occupies a half a degree of the sky. So if 90 degrees is directly overhead, and it is, 180 moons can be stacked up from the horizon to overhead. I always find that amazing stat. And even then, another 180 going the other direction. So 360 moons from horizon to horizon. Yet it is so big as it's coming over the horizon. And it's breathtaking, as we all know. And it's a puzzle in our sky to why it looks so big. So you're looking at either angular size, that we know is the actual physical size as it relates against the backdrop of the sky, a half a degree, versus its physical size, okay? And perceived size is only loosely related to things that you're looking at in perspective, okay? Since eternity, like I said, great thinkers have been wondering why this illusion is so prominent, okay? The moon appears larger because its perceived angular size seems greater when seen against physical structures. 2 books have been recently written. One called The Moon Illusion by Hershenson, 19 chapters talking about the moon illusion. And yet, no great conclusion, okay? And then another book, a 2002 book, The Mystery of the Moon Illusion by Ross and Plug, concluded no single theory has emerged victorious on why this illusion is so prominent in the human psyche, okay? But we'll offer some hypotheses and conjectures about this. in our STEAM education program today. And we offer the Ebbinghaus illusion. Which, Marty, is bigger? Which center circle is bigger? The left one or the right one? What do you say on that UCAC family microphone?
I say they're the same.
Marty says they're the same, and they are the same. But do they look the same to you, Marty? Because the left one definitely looks bigger to me.
Well, I'll agree to that, but I knew the answer.
Well, you knew the answer. Well, all right. Well, that's the optical illusion, is that in this particular experiment by a psychiatrist, Ebbinghaus there, let me get the lower center circle surrounded by small circles, the one on the left surrounded by small circles, might represent the horizon moon, accompanied by objects of smaller visual extent. All right. You see objects around the moon, it just appears bigger. And then it gets higher up in the sky, and that's where the one on the right, all right, surrounded by an expansive sky with the larger visual content, it looks smaller. When you're looking at the horizon, you're looking like at this picture, just at the landscape and the moon arising there. When it's high up in the sky, you have no frame of reference, just sky. Now here's another illusion. The clouds in the far back appear smaller, but we know on a cloudy day, the ones in the foreground are probably the same size as these beautiful cumulus clouds in the back. All right. And the way they're stacked up, that looks like it's a cloudy over there. When you're laying on a picnic blanket, maybe in this meadow, and you clearly see great breaks in the sky, that it's not a cloudy day, it's a partly beautiful cloudy day. So that's a good illustration there. The relatives, and there's another expanse here that demonstrates again which dark circle representing the moon is bigger, the one on the bottom or the one on the top. And for most people, when the moon is high, the clouds it is against are closer to the viewer and appear larger. The clouds feel larger there than the ones in the back, though like this picture, they're definitely probably the same size. All right. And if you think the moon on the bottom looks a little bit larger, that's the illusion. One psychologist wrote in 1813, the moon illusion is purely intellectual or cerebral and not optical or sensuous. The brain takes the sense data that is given it from the eye and it apprehends a large moon because, one, our intuitively perceiving understanding regards everything that is seen in a horizontal direction as being more distant and therefore as being larger than objects that are seen in a vertical position. The brain's accustomed to seeing terrestrial sized objects in a horizontal direction, all right, and also affected by an atmospheric perspective. That's what those lines include there. So indeed, most people see that the moon looks larger when it's closer to the horizon. There we go. About 90% of people see that phenomenon. Now, there's people who don't, okay, but a few people report no moon illusion at all, all right? And these are why we do closer studies on things like this, to see why people are different and why they perceive objects differently. It's like the constellations in the sky. Some of you are challenged to see the Orion man up in the sky, all right, made up of the stars. And that's okay. That's why different cultures didn't see Orion. They saw maybe a bull or a cart or something of their ilk there. So the harvest moon rising, of course, is a gorgeous moon. This moon of February is called the cold moon, and it could be called the snow moon, but it is the cold moon. And let's see who's Dave Stangy's there, Carlton Bailey. He says the most important full moon fact: even a man who's pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. Okay, that's siree. That's a classic line out of the Wolfman. That's right. Um, and Mitch Rothman's been in Africa, South Africa. He said the moon and everything was upside down, just like for Cliff. Hi, Bill Whiting. And Gary Gerald. Good to hear from you, Gary Gerald. I know you're working hard there in Collins, Georgia. So about time for you to get up here and warm your bones a little bit before the big Vidalia harvest time there, Cliff Watson. Gary Gerald. Talking to Gary there. So let's see. What other things about the moon illusion? Marty, does anything trip your trigger that do you see the moon illusion rising at night and then it gets higher up in the sky and you think it got smaller?
Sure, definitely.
Yeah. Good. And it's a great time to take pictures. And like I said, it's an illusion that just go with it. It's really not well understood what's going on in our brain. But we know that the photography is outstanding, and it's a good way to get the crescent moon against landscapes. All right. They look breathtaking. Okay. And I'm going to show you some of my photography here. All the pictures I've shown so far are my own photos. I think there's only one I'm going to show you or two that I didn't take the photograph of. But again, you own the moon. You can do with what you want. I have framed it against a pink twilight sky there on this shot. And then a different angle of a crescent moon against the silhouette is probably a half hour after this one here. All right, there's more light in the sky. And there I have a phenomenon called the new moon in the old moon's arms. And that moon that you see is caused by earthshine. It's sunlight reflecting off the Pacific Ocean and Indian Ocean, and then reflecting like a mirror back and illuminating the moon. Marty, I would like to add, I thought about the other day, I want to ask an International Space Station astronaut if they could see more of the Earth during full moon phase. Okay. Because if they're up there for 3 to 5 months, they're seeing at least 4 full moons. So I'm wondering if they look down over Europe or America at night and they see the moon up and they would actually be able to see things. I've never heard anybody comment about that. There's my buddy Farrell looking at the moon. Another crescent phase. Okay, you get people involved in it. It gives it another dimension. And it looks so big. Yet it's only a half a degree across or 2,000 miles. A handy way to measure the sky is what we use all the time. Outstretch your hand and you can cover up 1 degree of the sky with your little finger. When you do Scout's Honor, that's 5 degrees of the sky. Those fingers can be shoved into the pointer stars of the Big Dipper. A fist is about 10 degrees. Your fingers like that, 15, and outstretched about 25. So I can go like this and say from this tip of my finger, little finger here to little finger there's about 50 degrees of the sky. And as you hold it up there, you go up. Yep, that's about 4 hand spans to overhead, which would be 90 degrees, of course. So keep that in mind when you're judging distances and so forth. We say all the time in astronomy, Jupiter is 5 degrees away from the moon. Well, you see that's pretty close, okay? But then the next night, it's going to be about 12 degrees further. The moon moves 12 degrees across the sky to the east from one day to the next. So that's about a fist. So you look at the moon tonight and where it's at, and then they get up in the sky a little bit, of course, above the horizon. And tomorrow night it's going to be on a fist to the left away in the sky. Well, these are always serendipity moments where you can see the full moon rising and get some some ducks on cue to fly by as they're coming back from Hartford, Connecticut, or wherever they spent the nice warm summer and heading back down here. But lucky shot. But this is why you are ready with your camera. And I've been a photographer all my life and made a good living at it for a while. And some of these opportunities outside, you have to be patient and just wait for it to happen. But I'm pretty sure I saw ducks coming in one direction and thought, you know what, they may just actually fly in front of the moon. And let me balance my light. Let's get a little foreground palm tree in there, and bingo. Got something that you can't get anymore. Can't get this shot too much anymore. That is Bristol Motor Speedway, packed to the gills for an August race, probably 2003, somewhere around there. And the full moon rising over the South Holston Mountains. And at the bottom of those mountains, I miss that lake and the boat I had there for a couple decades. But that's your Appalachia, Bristol, Tennessee there. And as the NASCAR guys are going around 100 miles an hour, there's the moon rising in the background. So I'm trying to show off my work a little bit, but inspire you to do something wherever you are. There's a lot of snowscapes going on tonight. There'll be snow shining on, moonlight on snow, okay? Get some of that moonshine out there. Look at the frozen ice pond and see how that's reflecting. Maybe you can get the moon reflecting like a mirror in the sky in a pond. Things like that are fun to do. And here's a photo I took about 7 years ago. And I call it It's 5 o'clock somewhere. And that's John Hancock on top of the Hancock County Courthouse in my hometown of Findlay, Ohio. And this just wasn't a coincidence. I knew the moon was going to pass in front of it like that because I drove by it the day before and saw that. But you can also get an application on your phone, you serious photographers out there, that'll tell you exactly where to stand to get the moonlight like that on old John Hancock. Yeah, Marty.
Okay, nothing to do with astronomy or the moon, but we've seen this picture several times. So why is John Hancock on that building?
That's a good question. He was, it's the county seat of Northwest Ohio, and he apparently had some business doings there, but he had nothing. He didn't live around there. It was just simply a chance gathering there. So you make me want. I probably knew at one time, and I haven't lived there in over 35 years, but I'll get up with some of my mates. Because I'm not sure where John Hancock was from. Of course, he's the famous signature of the Constitution, so big and bold there. But if we ever show this picture again, is that what you're saying, Marty? Find out where John Hancock is from. Yeah, it's one of my favorite ones.
Well, maybe not where he's from, but why is he on that building?
Right. Well, he had something to do with the politics of Ohio at one time in the county. Again, just not, with digital film, you can take many shots and yes, it's enhanced a little bit. You always want the dark areas of the moon visible, as you're seeing in all my photographs. You see the Maria, the dark areas, all right? You have to expose for that and then open up your f-stop on the lens to expose the ambient light of your scene you're making. But this is pretty dark. This is hard to get this Atlantic Ocean like that. But to balance the moon, you don't want it to look like a flashlight. Just that's no good. I see the moon rise over a shuttle or Saturn V, and it's just a big old flashlight. They didn't balance the light on the moon itself to see the dark areas. Maybe they couldn't and capture that picture. But this is not. This is definitely an illusion, okay? You see so many of these pictures of moonrises and sunrises. These are artificial, intelligent, generated artwork that I prefer not to promote or see. People will comment on this on Facebook and say, oh my gosh, what a glorious picture. How did you capture that? This is completely fake. Number one, the moon, Marty's flipped around like this, okay? It's actually, if my hand's like this and my thumb's over there, it's flipped around and my thumb over here is wrong. You can see that, I think, notice on there. See how the bright areas at the upper right-hand corner at 4 o'clock. And two, you wouldn't have that reflection like that. It's just completely wrong. It's a superimposed 1 or 2 pictures generated by artificial intelligence. And I see so many of them. The moon over the Arctic Circle. They look so phony to a trained eye like me, but like so wonderful to the untrained eye. And you can't help it that you're buying into it's a real picture because you don't know the difference. So, but in today's society, trust none of what you see and less of what you hear. This is a real photograph, all right? This is fake, and that is real, okay? And I waited for some people to walk by to add drama. It'd be a pretty good picture with the seagrass there and the moonrise, but then you've got 2 people walking by, one obviously with some sort of cell phone device screen there. So these are the aha things that take a picture to another level. But it was hard to balance the light of the moon and get the dark areas and not have a flashlight there and the dark of the seagrass here. There's a little post-production there to bring out those shadow detail. This is the one picture I did not take, but to give you an idea of how people look at the moon. All right, there they are planning it as it's rising up. Someone with, what a clever way to do this. Now you need a telephoto lens. You probably need to look at the moon cycle, the previous months to see exactly where it's going to rise. And of course, there are applications that'll tell you exactly where this is going to happen. He's picking it up and putting it in a wheelbarrow, and they're going home after harvesting the moon. How cool is that? And I see all kinds of pictures like this that are real photos. They did not superimpose the moon. One off the top of my head is having the moon go through outdoor basketball hoops. I like seeing that once in a while. Here's a picture I took that I actually saw this driving down the highway and saw the moon rising and saw these electrical girders for the transmission lines and said, that's interesting and very artsy. And so I turned around, did a U-turn, went back, got off the side of the road, took the picture. And I tell people all the time when I taught photography classes, turn around. You see something all the time. Oh, I'll get that the next full moon, Marty. Yeah, I'll remember to drive by here the next full moon. Full moons aren't like that. Each one rises in a little bit different northern or southern from where it did the night before. Things might not line up right. It might be cloudy. It might, all kinds of variables. So that's a good capture there. Also, another photo that I staged. This is in Melbourne over the Radisson Hotel with about a 600 telephoto millimeter lens equivalent. It's actually through a telescope. And again, the sun has set. The sunlight is gone on the building. And here's the moon coming up. Look how gigantic it looks. It's going to swallow that condo. All right. By the way, this was taken up at Cocoa Beach. That was taken up at Cocoa Beach area up there, and that was in Tennessee actually. And here we are in Melbourne, Florida, and then another landscape shot to get that you need a tripod and sometimes an exposure is the VAB and the moon rising about where pad 40 is. A little bit further than 40. 40 is actually right about in the middle here. I'll get a sip there. And you get color in the moon. And I like the cloud that adds a little more texture to it. that makes it look bigger. Okay, like we're talking about the moon illusion, when you add an element of visual things that you know the size of. I don't know the size of that cloud, except I know it's a cloud. That adds to it. The red is caused by the atmospheric phenomenon of refraction, where it gets up higher, it's looking through less atmosphere, and that moves everything to the red end of the spectrum. So it's not going to be so. It gets up higher. There's less atmosphere to look through, so you don't get the light pollution that tints everything to red. And something that y'all might be seeing without the palm trees up there in Michigan and Illinois and other places that they're watching today is a ring around the moon. And this is a 22.5 degree radius, 25 degrees across, 45 degrees across, caused by a certain size of rectangular ice crystals that create this pattern called a lunar halo. All right. Well, yesterday on my favorite website, today in fact, on Space Weather, that's my home page, they always have things like these pictures I'm showing you on here. They oh shoot, I forgot to bring that with me. That's the one thing I forgot was who took this picture. This is a picture that they call a lunar areola. All right, lunar areola is caused by a bunch of ice in the sky that is not the same size like this, and therefore a halo doesn't form, but this sort of like fog around the moon that they're actually calling a lunar areola. It was taken in Michigan, and I forget what town in Michigan now. I left that on my printer in the other room, so that's bad for me. So from lunar areola to lunar halo there, okay? And you might be seeing that phenomenon, either one. Now, the person that took this picture up in Michigan, and Dave Stange, I wish I could remember the town, but he said that an hour before the moon had a halo around it, and then it has this dark cloud feature that did dissipate another hour later called the lunar areola.
Want me to get it? Want me to get it?
Yeah, we'll run in there and go get that, would you? I'd like to talk about this on, I'm pretty sure I printed that out. Maybe I didn't, Marty. He's going to check, but I'd like to know that. All right, people, we're celebrating Easter. When do we celebrate Easter? One final thing to go out with here is, when is Easter celebrated, okay? And in fact, I may know how to get that. Turn another way here. Easter always fluctuates, all right? And why does Easter fluctuate? That is the big question out there. As Easter keeps changing, and it can be like 6 weeks. It can be in early April. It can be in Marty. I got it. It can be in late April or early March. All right, Easter. I didn't print it out. Actually, boy, it was in the cloud. All right. So let me give due credit here to a phenomenon I never heard of. All right. There's the lunar halo. Sometimes the best thing about a bright full moon is what goes on around it. Last night in Pennsylvania, specifically Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. I said Michigan, and I'm wrong. I was thinking Stange, and it's Tom Usiak. Dave Mitski in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, took this picture of a moon ring before, and this is now a lunar areola, cousin to the better known lunar corona, or the lunar halo. When the droplets are a jumble of different sizes, they produce a straw-colored ring, an areola. When the droplets are all of the same size, they produce a rainbow-colored ring. There you are, the halo or corona. Look for both tonight. And Dave Mitski up in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, took this with his iPhone 12 Pro Max, all right, after photographing the halo beforehand. So now you know. So, when is Easter. It is decided in the 1500s by the Catholic Church that Easter would be the Sunday after the full moon that occurs after the spring equinox. Now, the spring equinox is always March 21st or 22nd, somewhere, either one of those days. That's the spring equinox, equal day, equal night, on March 21st or 22nd. So, if the full moon, is the spring equinox is say on the 21st, let's say the 22nd, because I think it's moved a little bit. It's going to be the 22nd for the next 8 or 9 years. And the full moon falls on the 23rd, and say that's a Tuesday, the following Sunday is going to be Easter, all right, which would make it like April 1st or something like that. So I looked it up. We have a full moon. Of course, March 22nd is the first day of spring. Okay. And there is a full moon on March 15th. All right. So the week before the spring equinox is the full moon. All right. And that's actually going to be an eclipse of the moon, Marty, a total lunar eclipse. And nobody's going to see it because it's total from 2 in the morning till 3 in the morning on Saturday. So that really is the worst time at all to have anybody come out for a public lunar eclipse party for safety reasons and sleep reasons. Okay. So Easter, actually, that would mean to me that the full moon, the next full moon, is April 12th, a Saturday. Okay. After the March 15th full moon, April 12th is the next Saturday, is the first full moon after the first day of spring on the 22nd. That's April 12th. But that is Sunday in Europe. All right, Greenwich Mean Time. So though I would say if it was on April 12th, a Saturday, the full moon, the next Sunday is April 13th is when Easter should be. But because it's the international date line comes in here, Easter is going to be about as late as it can be, Marty, April 20th. All right, so 420, we'll be celebrating Easter and Apollo 16 landing on the moon. And now you know how we get the Easter date. White as it flux. It's the first Sunday after the first full moon, after the first day of spring. And now you know. So also an illusion that's not often talked about, Marty, is there has already been a first woman on the moon, all right? And that clearly was Alice Cramden, all right? And look up Alice Cramden, all you young people out there. And all you that grew up in the 60s and 70s will know that Alice Cramden was the wife of Ralph Cramden, bus driver, all right, on the Honeymooners. So Marty, I hope you all enjoyed looking back at the moon, why the moon has an illusion. It looks so large when it's near buildings and things, and overhead it looks so small. It looks a lot smaller. It's an illusion, all right, and something that we can't exactly explain in our human minds, and I find that quite fascinating. So hope everybody goes out. I'm going to do a little reading maybe the next couple nights, maybe enjoy a little bit of moonshine, some light reading, maybe the first men on the moon as the moonlight is pouring through my windows and out in the yard. It's warm enough here we can get out in the yard. Get out in that snow with the moon. I miss that. I love the silvery light of the moon on the crunchy cold of a winter evening out there. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for enjoying our STEAM education program that we try to do 3 or 4 times a month to keep our STEAM education in the forefront. This is something, again, that we do here at the American Space Museum. So, Marty, thank you for a good job today. I don't see any other comments from anybody. And we thank Tom Usiak for watching, Steve Jokums, Dave Stengy, Dean Babcock, Robert Law, Cliff Watson, Mitch Rothman, John Borelli, Doug Forrest, Carlton Bailey, MJ Jumps Hollow. Okay, MJ. Gary Gerald. And our Navy guy, USS LKA 116. Thank you all for staying
Mark, you
curious.
also got 222 Ain't is watching, and your daughter Jessie and your grandkids are watching.
All right. Hello. Go out there and get some moonlight there, little McKinley. If it's not too cold, let her bop out in the moonlight a little bit there, Jessie, my daughter, and Macy, my granddaughter. So hope everybody is staying warm. As we know, there's a lot of cold weather and snow, and we'll keep the heat on for you down here. Anytime you want to come, our door is open, and anytime you want to stay curious, Marty and I are here for you, as we have over 900 episodes on YouTube that you can enjoy, and there's some really good ones on there. We're efforting some guests and some other surprises, and maybe have a surprise or two yet before the week ends. But until next time, I'm Mark Marquette saying thank you for watching, and I can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us. Thank you.